All right, so we are in post-show. I'm going to kind of go backwards at this, if that's all right with you, Chesney. Actually, I'm going backwards at this, even if you're not okay with it. So the first thing I want to talk about, I work at a university, and one of the things that they have up right now, they do this every year. It's called the Tunnel of Oppression, and it's just a hallway with a bunch of displays that students have created that show things about oppression and discrimination. So they have like a lynching thing and the KKK and homophobia, people who have, people who oppress homosexuals, who oppress transgender people. One of the stations they have is about Islamophobia, which got at atheistairwaves.com if you want to debate with me, but in my view is a thing. I have talked to many, even atheists, who have a problem separating people from ideas and actually oppressing people when you should be going after their ideas. And that doesn't bother me at all. Anyone want to debate the Islamophobia thing? Probably not.
What do you...
Well, I just know that there are atheists who are like, Islamophobia is a stupid word.
Didn't we cover the lady whose house got set on fire?
We did. And her window's broken out and all kinds of things. So, yes, there are people who are shitty to Muslims and they should not be, despite the fact they believe in nonsense and Muhammad is an asshole and Allah is an asshole. Despite all that, people have rights and they should be able to live free of intimidation and violence. One of the things that really struck me, though, is I actually walked through this a few times. One, because Chesney told me that there was a street preacher, and I went running. I was like, ooh, I gotta go see this. And it turns out it was something else. But I just go through there on a regular basis just to get to my car. So the Islamophobia booth has like this little head. It's like a little mannequin head. It's just the head. And
like for people that are practicing cosmology? Not cosmology. Cosmetology, excuse me.
Yeah. Cosmetology. Yeah. And the little head, which is, now that I think about it, it's a little awful to have like the Islam thing. It's like a severed
hearing
head.
This is awful. So
the Islamophobia thing has a severed head on it. I'm like, that didn't occur to me.
Probably not.
They were displaying how to appropriately wear a hijab.
Right, exactly. So the head is veiled. This is great. But then the third time I walked through there, I was like, that's really weird that you would have an Islamophobia thing and actually a veiled woman on display.
the oppression of that culture.
Yeah. And there's nothing in that hallway about oppression of women, honor killings.
There's nothing about oppression of women, period.
No. At all. Like that's, at first I was like, well, surely there's something. Probably they haven't related it back to Islam and what fucking Muslims do to women.
But right. But then there's the argument that happens in other religions too. So it's just the oppression of women in general.
And if they had I would have been okay with it if they had just done it in general. But nothing.
But even if they don't want to tie it back to the religion, there should have been something, because we even have sex trafficking here in the United States.
And especially in that area.
And in Corpus Christi.
Yeah, this area is.
Yeah.
I just found, and I don't want to assume too much. I want to assume that they were trying to be somehow respectful of Islam by not pointing out that what Muslims and others do to women. But it's awfully weird to me to have an entire display.
It's friggin' South Texas. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it probably didn't even occur to them, because if they thought about putting oppression of women, they're like, oh, that's something that only happens in other countries.
Mm-hmm. Could be. I mean, I gotta say, like, I'm from New Jersey originally, came here via St. Louis. I have never lived in a more racist and misogynist area in my life. South Texas is like a real shithole.
Agreed.
You're from here, right, PD? Sorry about that.
No. I understand. I understand. Yep.
Sorry, I'm reading comments in the chat room. Interesting. Ince Mike says most Islamophobes don't look deeply into people's religious beliefs before persecuting someone. They just pick the brownish people who aren't Africans to pick on. Yeah, so. I wanted to register that complaint before we moved on any farther. Is that I don't think that there is. I hear a lot of arguments around this stuff, and I don't think that there is any contradiction between saying, hey, Islamophobia is a thing and it's not a cool thing, and B, you can not be Islamophobic and point out that things that Islam stands for and Muslims do are not cool. I think we're going to get back to this point in a little bit, but I wanted to bring that out. Next thing I wanted to talk about, and maybe we'll just hit this briefly because I pissed off some people this afternoon about it, and so I thought I'd piss you people off and the people in the chat room and whatnot.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Okay, so this weekend we had our homeless giveaway. We gave away homeless people.
I'm so sad I missed getting one.
Yeah, sorry. We'll save you one next time.
Oh, good.
We'll put them in the freezer.
Yay.
So they stay nice and fresh for you.
Fresh homeless people.
But what occurred to me over the next few days was that what we're doing is really a Band-Aid on the problem. It's not effective. It's not. It helps, and I know that, you know, giving away a blanket to a person in the middle of winter, even Corpus winter, is significant. Putting giving them food is significant. Giving them antifungal medication, significant.
It's a short-term response.
Short-term, right. And it's not comprehensive. I mean, there were like maybe 3 dozen people there. So 30, 40 homeless people probably.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking about, because I want to be a rational person about anything I do. And so, you know, we spent a lot of time talking to the homeless people who came to this thing about a recent panhandling ban that went into effect in downtown Corpus Christi. You're no longer allowed to ask for money and stuff like that. And I started thinking, okay, I started challenging my own biases on this and thinking, okay, what if giving people money, giving people food and supplies was actually enabling their situation and making it worse? Like, whatever. Now, I want to point out that when I started looking into how the state of Texas in particular supports the homeless community, it's like not at all.
They're not humans. They're completely dehumanized.
Yeah.
They're treated pretty much like vermin.
Yeah. And we do not we don't support even basic humanitarian standards for people in this state. The national standards for just adequate care of just the mentally ill portion of homeless people. National standards say you should have 50 public beds in psychiatric facilities per 100,000 residents in order to adequately handle that situation. The state of Texas has an average of 8.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. If you are mentally ill and homeless in this state, the odds of you going to jail are 8-1 over you going to a hospital. So it made me think that perhaps the proper approach to solving this problem might be more resources into actual proactive helping these people, but also I want you guys to yell at me and argue with me, making panhandling illegal, making sleeping in public illegal, all of those things in order to give the city, the county, the state the tools they need to get people help. So not criminalizing those things, but making them illegal so that someone who is sleeping under an underpass, with kids possibly, mentally ill, that they can be picked up, not taken to jail, not taken to court, but taken to a shelter, which we have none. We have no free shelters in Corpus Christi. You have to pay. If you want to stay with a Christian shelter in this city, you have to pay. I get all the time leaving bars downtown, people saying, "Hey, I'm just trying to get into the Salvation Army shelter. Can you spare a few bucks?" Might that be more effective than just depending on people walking into the gas station, giving them $1, or a bunch of atheists going into a park?
It can't be based on sleeping in public.
Well,
You're hitting too many other people with that. That's not gonna.
I think
people with medical problems that have to.
Well, fuck narcoleptics, because they're.
No, but like even me, I have to split my day in half. If I don't lay down for 30 minutes during the day, I can't get through the second half of my day.
But I think, okay, so the other thing I want to say is I don't trust cops to do anything intelligently. So you may be right. They may, like an old person who nods off at the bus station, could possibly end up at a homeless shelter.
Those kind of laws will be used against minorities, probably.
Well, and you'd have to assume that there would be some place to take these people. You'd have to somehow enforce the state actually doing their job, and I don't trust that at all.
Well, I'm just saying you don't do one or the other. You have to do both at the same time. But okay, so
I get what you're saying, that there's some kind of law like that. It's just not sleeping.
That has to.
But
okay.
Did you see the thing on Facebook where they were trying to implement, instead of panhandling, 'cause there was another city that did this, where instead of panhandling, people would come by, and if they saw someone that was begging, they would say, "Hey, do you want a job for a few hours?"
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was amazing. So they would take these ostensibly homeless people and have them pick up litter on the side of the highway for however many hours they could, physically do it. They would pay them for the day, and then they would leave. And the people that they interviewed said that, it made them feel worthwhile. These are people that have had jobs, that have had homes, that now, in some of the worst times of their life, they didn't start out here.
Yeah.
And they want to be treated like human beings. They want to be given a chance, not just, kicked off their corner.
But that's not everyone. I mean, there were many people that I met on Sunday who were like that were just clearly down on their luck and in a bad spot, and would definitely do things to get out of that. And I feel like that we need social structures to support them in the short term, but then also to get them back on their feet in the long term. It scrolled off, but Tech Rock in the chat room said, what would be the penalty? No penalty. They would be taken to help. That's what I'm saying, is like, don't take them to court, don't take them to jail. You take them to a social services center where they can get help.
They just can't stay there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a way of, like I said, just making sure, because the other thing is that so many people aren't even aware of the kinds of programs that are available to people in their situation. And this would even just be a way to do that. Someone else was saying, oh God.
But how are they supposed to even know anyway? It's like they don't have any forms of communication. How do you find services?
Oh, this is the worst thing ever. So I think it was Reverend Redbeard who was saying, or no, it was Katie Scary who was saying that, it's not helpful, but that was saying, you're not going to find it, but who was saying that, that was it. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. But you have cities that don't want panhandlers, but also won't build affordable housing or implement job training or anything like that will actually help. That's what I'm saying, is that you need to have both. You need to say, okay, we're going to and this is what I'm advocating, and I really do want people to disagree with me, because this is like really just me thinking out loud the last few days, and I want to...
see, I'm not even disagreeing with you. I mean, I think, sure, if we can get the government to do something to help, but channeling my parents right now, I'm saying, well, who's going to pay for it? I don't want my taxes to go up.
You know that fucking 200-foot cross? What if they actually did something good instead of making a 200
We did
fucking
point that
foot
out to
cross?
them. They didn't seem to care.
I looked up over the last few days because that's the next thing that came into my mind was, so they're building this $1 million cross, the largest cross on this side of the planet in Corpus Christi. And I knew that there were other cities that were creating, building tiny houses to house their homeless and giving it to them for free. And I was like, oh, I wonder how much that costs and how many homeless people could be off the street and in a home for the cost of this chintzy eyesore. It's over 100 people that they could get off the street and into a tiny house.
And how many do you think you talked to this weekend? Or how many were around?
It was like 40.
Oh, okay.
30 or 40.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those
It would be
people...
significant.
It would, for the size of
For this-
Corpus.
And on,
Yeah.
and on top of that, you can come up with more money than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, oh yeah.
If you're
And
actually doing something tangible.
People might donate to something.
that's what I'm saying. Like, the land that this cross is going on was donated by a company, I assume, like Citgo or some oil company.
And you would assume some of the businesses downtown would have an interest in
And
this
getting rid of them.
happening.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They all have food at the end of the day. They got to do something with.
Oh, that's
It's just something.
Well, I
you
was
know
gonna
what
say
mean?
that's a tangent that really really pisses me off. Do you have any idea how much food gets thrown away, even from like a single HEB at the end of the day?
Yeah, a
And
lot.
not because they don't want to donate it; it is illegal. Mm-hmm. You could have a cake that got baked, and
But
someone
dumpster diving is not illegal. So
Yeah.
sometimes they
No,
but
no,
like
it's
some places
seriously.
will throw things away, but they won't like
they won't
just-
trash them. They'll
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Oh,
it's
that's
just
sad.
it is so frustrating because even the guys are like, "Look, this cake was baked. It's never been touched. It's a day old. We have to dump it."
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, "Well, can't I just take it?" They're like, "No, we can't even give it for free with you saying that you want it because there might be a lawsuit."
Right.
So Reverend Redbeard in the chat room notes that taxes go to housing homeless in jail, and at far greater rates, especially among the mentally ill. They're put in jail rather than in hospitals, which is just whatever. I think that if you do both, that's the best way to go, because if you just cut them off from panhandling, if you make laws against giving them food, that's a humanitarian disaster.
It is.
If you just put in place programs and places, a lot of them won't know that they exist because they're homeless. They don't have access to the internet. They don't have phones. They don't have friends or family who are looking after them, many of them. And they'll fall through the cracks. And that's why I've just, like I said, just over the last few days, it's not a full-fledged theory. It's just what I've been thinking about. So please, got it at atheistairwaves.com if you're like really pissed off about this.
That's one of the worst things the thing that I think about the most is that people I've talked to, I've tried to see if there's any way of ever trying to track them down again, and there's just not.
It's not, yeah.
There's not. They don't have any form of communication. And even when they do, they're at a threat of someone stealing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Insmike in the chat room notes that the U.S. throws away 40% of their food because of required expiration dates and whatnot. I think the food problem, because I'm not really disturbed by that at all. It's not that it's not a food problem. It's a transportation problem. It's getting the food to where it needs to go that is the major issue.
No, I agree. I think there needs to be some kind of Good Samaritan kind of loophole where you say if you're donating this to a food kitchen, if you're donating this food somewhere else, you're not liable. I don't know. There needs to be some way we're not dumping perfectly good food just because. And that's why they do it, because they don't want someone to get sick on food that's one day expired and sue them for everything they have.
Right. Okay. We don't have a whole lot of time left. Chesney, you were really energized by a recent episode of Dogma Debate. And there were like three things they talked about. They talked about, what was it? Safe spaces, Black Lives Matter, and feminism. You want to pick one that we can talk about briefly?
You want me to pick one?
Yeah, pick one. What is the one that is most grinding your gears?
Well, the safe spaces one is the one that got me most riled up.
Okay.
Although I think, depending on what kind of conversation you want to have, the Black Lives Matter was the more controversial.
I don't necessarily want any kind of.
Pick one, Chesney.
What do you want? What do you want to talk about, Chesney? What kind of conversation do you want to have?
You're so mean to me. Okay, I guess let's just go with safe spaces then.
Okay, so safe spaces. So let me say again, I work at a university. I have created safe spaces in my department. I am therefore not entirely an anti-safe space person. What was grinding your gears, Chesney?
Okay, first, I'm going to start out saying, David Smalley, if you're listening to this, and I misrepresent your case, please email us. That is not my intention.
And let's not slag anyone because they're not here to enforce, defend themselves.
This was not supposed to be a roast of anything, but it was just the 2 points of view that were brought up during the last episode. I felt were kind of unfair. He had a guest on that was talking about safe spaces, what they were originally intended for, what they have kind of become, and what the public perception is. Mm-hmm. And I think some very visible atheist activist must have posted the recent South Park episodes about safe spaces with the implication that that is an accurate representation of what they are. Meaning a glass bubble where you never hear anything against your opinion and you never get your feelers hurt.
Right. And that is not what it's supposed to be. And in my experience working at a university for over 10 years, not what it is in practice most of the time. Typey McTyperson. Necklace McNecklacerson. Yes, I know you're yelling at the chat room, but can you...
Okay.
Come back.
So basically what the guest speaker was saying is that originally they were targeted at the LGBT community because they needed a place where they could go and speak their mind and how they feel and who they feel they are without immediately being jumped on as an attack, which, I'm not trying to attack you. It's, love the sinner, hate the sin, but you are going to hell.
And you need some Jesus.
Yeah.
I've probably told this story before, but the event in my career that led to me, Katie Scary says, I feel the word safe spaces is getting overused and I'm over them. I'm so with you. But I think we're going to get to why that is. But the incident in my career that motivated me to start looking into this and actually doing, now Katie Scary's losing me, but that made me implement this in my workplace. I had a student an undergrad who came to me. She was a senior. At the time I was working at a university in a very small town in the middle of nowhere in Missouri. And she was clearly distressed. She had accepted a job in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. And she was beating around the bush about the culture of the town and stuff like that. Eventually, I was able to read between the lines, and and I said, "Let me test my understanding. Are you telling me that you're gay and you're worried about moving to a small town in Iowa and whether that will be a positive move for you?" And she just burst into tears. She had been so afraid of telling me what her actual problem was because we lived in a town of about 9,000 people at the time, and she needed help, but she was afraid that I was going to go Jesus on her if she told me what the issue was.
Well, I mean, look at you.
I know, right?
You're white. You're tall. You're a guy.
His name is Christian.
Privilege.
Right. Yeah.
Privilege all over it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. My name is Christian. Christians assume I'm Christian. I'm sure gay people assume I'm a homophobic asshole. And so a safe space in that instance, and what I created after that was designed to be, hey, you can be gay in this space and no one is going to say, you need to get yourself some Jesus because you are sinning right now. And instead, we were going to address the actual problems that person was facing. I feel like mostly what I see people who are critical of safe spaces doing is attacking straw men. That it's not, I'm not saying that those things don't happen. I'm saying that that's not the intended purpose or the most common usage of safe spaces, is not to protect you from people who disagree with you. And I feel like the people who hold those positions have never been in that situation, have never seen those kinds of things.
Right, and what was going on in the podcast that I was hearing is, I believe David's opinion was that it really shouldn't be the case where you can have an opinion and not be challenged on it, because that's how we grow as people. And to an extent, I agree with that.
Sure.
However, I have to think that he's coming from a position where he's never been literally worried for his life. He was even saying that the word safe space implies that, the outside world isn't safe. And I'm like, well, duh.
It's kind of not.
It's like, have you been gay? I mean, seriously, try walking down the street. It's crazy.
In Corpus Christi, I mean, there were a couple of years ago that lesbian couple who were nearly executed. One died, the other survived a gunshot to the head, and that was because they were gay. More recently, there was the transgender woman who was I can't remember if she died or not, in Houston.
I don't remember.
But, I mean, again, because she was not cisgendered. So those are problems. So I think that...
Right, and the argument is not that these are people that are going to be protected from ever hearing a differing opinion, because that's obviously impossible. It is just that there needs to be a place where you can decompress. And one of the things he was really worried about was that you would get some gay people in there that would start doing serious bashing of Christians, just saying all Christians are terrible people and I hate them all, and having that speech be protected. And my immediate response is, so the fuck what? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why we have the atheist Facebook pages where we can go on and we can rant and we can say terrible things and vent, basically, because you have to decompress, and then you can go back out in the real world and be like, okay, I didn't mean a generalized, I hate all religious people. It's just I
hate Antonin Scalia. That's what
yes.
I meant.
And somehow that just escaped him, and he brought in the argument, his own personal anecdotal evidence of that he grew up in a predominantly black community, and he was discriminated against for being white because the rest of his community would not let him participate in certain activities because it was a minority activity. I think his school went on a field trip or something, and he wasn't allowed to go.
Oh no, go to every other community in the country.
And
that's not fair to say, but I don't want to minimize what he went through, but it doesn't compare.
Well, not just that, but again...
And I also want to say I haven't listened to this. I'm just responding to what you're saying.
Yeah, and again, it's meant to be a single room that is rented out, maybe once a week as like a club would do. It's not meant to be the whole university, and I think that was part of the problem. Is especially with the was it Ayan Hirsi Ali speaking?
Miriam Namazi too.
Miriam Namazi, yeah, where they were trying to claim that the entire university couldn't allow her to speak because it would cause contention. And that's just not what it is.
But I think, I'm not sure, because I've listened to the complaints from every side. I did some deep research into it. It sounds like there might be some student unions who have a safe space policy that does not sound like the thing that you are describing.
Correct. That is absolutely correct.
And those safe spaces are the ones that are the problem.
Yes. And Kitty Scary in the chat room says, but those things that are happening are a problem, and I agree. My points are dual.
There's like two different safe spaces, and nobody realized they're talking about two different things.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. That's exactly right. What this is, because I absolutely... Miriam Namazi is a great example, because what the Muslim students were trying to do in the she gave a presentation about the oppression of women in Islam, and they tried to use safe space ideas to say, you can't criticize us for anything because we're in a safe space right now. So despite the fact, whatever, that is not a positive usage of that idea. That is also not a blanket condemnation of the concept. And what bothers me about what is going on in the atheist movement right now is that we have lost entirely the capability of talking with nuance. We have lost the capability of saying safe spaces are not a bad idea, but they can be used badly. And I feel like we're just blanketly saying, hey, this is all bad, and so it must be stopped. When a reasonable, intelligent analysis of these things has to come to the conclusion that there are good uses and bad uses. We don't need to destroy everything in order to weed out bad ideas and bad usages.
Right, and in Smalley's defense, he did agree with 90% of what his guest speaker was saying, which is, safe spaces are a good idea, but he was of the opinion that they could go too far. However, I personally disagreed with what he called too far, meaning that he was afraid that, again, like I said, that people would start bashing some other group in their safe space, and they even brought up the comparison of, well, would you agree with a white supremacist group having a safe space on campus? And I think, and seriously, I think the only intellectually consistent or honest response would be, well, yes, of course, I would agree with that, as long as it was, once again, one particular space on campus where as soon as they left, you could have at them. You could have the debate you're looking for.
You just stand outside that office with a baseball bat. That's what... Is that what you're advocating right now?
Is that how we define debate?
That's how I'm defining debate, yes. Okay, so I think it's very easy. And I also want to say that I know that I'm guilty of doing this on this show, that even though I don't think that all Christians are the worst and just horrible people and they're all homophobes and they're all child abusers, I'm certain that I say things like, Christians are so terrible. I'm certain I say that, even though I don't believe that. So I want to admit that I probably sound that way to other people. But if you're the kind of person who is going to criticize safe spaces universally, I think you need to, and I try to pay a lot of attention to the way I use those words, and I know I'm not always good at doing it, especially on this show where we're, not entirely being serious all the time.
Not us.
Are you sure?
A little bit. So I just want to urge people to take a deep breath. There are bad feminists. There are feminists. I've been banned from so many feminist communities. So many.
Such an asshole.
They're assholes, okay?
Yeah, I've met them.
That doesn't mean we have to condemn all feminists.
Right.
There are really, really horrid uses of the concept of safe spaces, which doesn't mean that we need to condemn all safe spaces. The leaders, so-called leaders of the atheist movement, the Four Horsemen, Dawkins, Harris, all those guys, they may say things that are crappy from time to time. We can address the bad things they say without saying that they are horrible people that we never need to talk about again or need to see again, without tossing them out of every event that we hold. We need more nuance in the way we address problems in the world as a movement, I think.
I think everyone needs to have some practice on nuance anyway.
I agree.
Not just atheists.
I have no idea what most of the chat room is saying. Kitty Scary in the chat room says that I need that. and notes that one time I said people from India smell bad.
Did you?
I did say that.
Oh.
Well, because they were talking about. I felt bad at the time, and I want to say that I said I felt bad at the time, but it was about an army of Indians, and I was like, I'm not afraid of them because I will smell them. I can't believe you made me repeat what I said, the horrible, horrible thing I said. But
Let's kick him out.
I'm a horrible, horrible person. I understand.
Get to
Fine.
walking. Get
All
to
right.
walking.
We'll see you guys. Okay, we'll see some of you guys next Tuesday at 7:30.
God at
Central.
atheistairwaves.com.
Please complain. We want your complaints because it makes us better people.
Boo.
Blues won. Blues beat Dallas.
Fuck yeah.
Sports ball.
Go sports puck.
Puck.
Sports ball.
Puck.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. You mean do the stuff?
Do the thing. Do the thing with the thing.
I'll do the thing.
Click. Press the button, Frank.